I can finally close my eyes without being scared. Syria wasn't always in a war zone, but one thing led to another, and here I am, 5,000 kilometers away from home. At least now I can run outside, sit on the grass, soak in the sun, without the constant fear of death. When I get sad, I start writing about Syria. I go outside and glance from afar at a beautiful scape. I close my eyes to imagine what home felt like. One day I was in class and boom, 5 seconds of silence. Until we acknowledged that there was an explosion in the school. The only thing that crossed my mind was if I would make it in time to find my younger brother. But it was too late. He was gone. I kept screaming his name, Ziad, 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 but no one ever yelled back. He was 2 years younger, but he was caught up in the crossfire of the events taking place. I still see his face when I close my eyes and feel his presence in my heart. When my mom and I migrated to the United Kingdom, we started from the bottom and built our way up. It was difficult for such a long time, but because I knew that one day I could become an asset for my country, this was the way I chose to fight. We were given a hand of opportunity to seek work and have a better life with social benefits. We couldn't have said no. We were constantly in danger. It was too hard to walk away from a house that once echoed the sound of my brother's voice and my father's presence. I left my childhood photos behind, and I didn't have a choice to stay. I left a beautiful place I once called home. So I hope that I continue to feel at home here in the United Kingdom, because this is the first time I've felt safe with a roof over my head and a blanket over my shoulder for a while now.
I think I started feeling it most in my teen years, but I never really admitted it to myself. I kind of pushed the thought into the back of my mind. It was like a passing thought until I was in college, where I had my first girlfriend and finally admitted it to myself. Watching shows on television like Coronation Street ignited these thoughts and made me form a kind of understanding onto why I was feeling like this. In school, I had a friend who I used to write notes to, and we were really close. I felt like I was catching feelings for her, but we never really spoke about it. I only came out in my late 20s because I was scared. When I came out to my mother, she knew the whole time. She was just waiting for me to come out. My mom and I were folding clothes in the room, and I was like, I should probably tell her about my girlfriend. When I told my mom, she said, I know, I was just waiting for you to be ready to tell me. Funny enough, my mom also came out to me. She told me about her past experiences with women, and this kind of took me back quite a bit. Who would have thought my parents would be completely safe about me being a lesbian? After that, I kind of understood that it wasn't a big deal, and since my parents knew I didn't care about any other opinion, I was just at peace with myself. It's quite close minded that some people think all lesbians dress like men, pretend to be lesbians, hate doing feminine things. It just makes no sense. To be honest, my sexuality does not dictate in any way how I dress or act. Being liberated from that is part of the freedom I found with accepting my sexuality and being myself. One day I can feel really girly, and the other day I could feel not. I wear what makes me feel comfortable. I don't care about what society has to say. I just want to be myself and do what makes me happy. I feel really sad for individuals in society who aren't accepting of the LGBT community. Not having acceptance and having hate for others is a burden on individuals and on society. I wouldn't wish that on anyone. They should understand we're all human. This is how we feel. We cannot change that. We were born like this. I was born like this. I can't change the way I am because some people don't like it. I think it would be nice if society finds respect for the LGBT community because we are part of it and we've always been.
I used to have a nice job, and I was married for about 10 years. I met my wife when we were just young teenagers, and she was my best friend. We did everything together. She was just a kind hearted spirit. 3 years ago, my wife got a heart attack and died. I left the hospital that morning, and I never went back to my flat or job. It came as a surprise to me, because she was in perfectly fine health, for all we both knew. She never complained about feeling unwell in general. After her death, I found myself on the street homeless. I didn't want to go back to the places that reminded me of her. I felt that without her in my life, I had and felt nothing anymore. All my happiness had faded away. Money isn't important to me anymore, the same way it used to be. If I don't have her to share it with, then I don't want it anymore. The only time I worry about money is when I have 3 or 4 pounds left in my pocket. But I know I'll eventually survive. If I was ever handed money, I would normally grab a bite to eat and hold on to it as much as I could. I would spend my money on food, but on cold nights, save the money for a B&B. I find difficulty going to the stores to buy a sandwich. At times, I feel so embarrassed that I don't even give people inside a chance to say anything. I make an excuse and go way outside after I've paid, because I can see by the way they look at me, they don't want me in the store. Being homeless is a choice for me. Sometimes I walk around and all I want is for someone to hear my story. At times I get looked at like I'm an addict who lost his home to drugs. But that's not me. I'm no addict. I can barely feed myself. Why would I spend my money on drugs? I visit her grave sometimes and collect roses from the gardens around Brighton. I miss her. My advice to people is not to judge anyone based on their circumstances and appearance. Sometimes life just knocks you down really hard that you get too scared to stand back up and face it. I'm an Arab living abroad, and I get looked at every day like I'm a terrorist. I think the movies and news have influenced how the Middle East is perceived on TV. On TV and in reality, us Arabs are portrayed as nomads or Bedouins that still use camels as a way of travel, or even terrorists responsible for 9/11. I went clubbing one day with a friend and I was speaking to a really pretty girl. This guy shows up out of nowhere and starts calling me ISIS. In the beginning, I took it as a joke, some banter between men. When he started insulting me is when I thought, this man must be out of his mind. Or maybe, I was surprised some people were still so ignorant. I was quite offended and chose to walk away. Because to be honest, we both knew who was going to win. It's definitely not me. I'm not the one with a European passport. That man really got to me. Because what that man didn't know was the only reason I was living in a foreign country was to get a good education in order to support my family back home. When all he was doing was being a drunk, calling me ignorant and barbaric by relating me to ISIS. But I think I got the best revenge, getting people to hear my story and understand the real nature of Arabs. Arabs are people who have feelings, ambition, and dreams, none of which include terrorist acts, rather those that include becoming a doctor, engineer, or even a teacher. Arabs are humble and love to share their culture and traditions. That's what makes us unique, in a good way. I hope one day we can all be more at peace and tolerant to one another. This is a message from an Arab to the world.